Hello and welcome to Con Artist, podcast number 3, the third hour. Well, I think they're actually like an hour and 10 minutes, hour 17 minutes long. I'm your host, Maestro. As with me, as always, we have Dan from FOE 19 Studios. Say hello.
You.
Hello. And we have our resident cosplayer, Brian, or as I like to call him, Shiny Doctor Cosplay, because he finally has a Facebook page called Shiny Doctor Cosplay. Look it up, like it, follow it.
Yes, I finally heard of this thing called the Internet and the book of faces that it contains.
The Internet is a place where people get together and bitch about movies.
Or look up porn.
Usually at the same time.
Yeah, well, they complain about movies while looking up porn and then complaining about the porno movies.
And just for the record, it really doesn't matter how many hours this podcast goes on because people are shutting it off after about 10 minutes.
Probably. But I actually got the third hour idea because Doctor Who premieres new season 8 or series 8 next Saturday, or for those of us who can't tell time, Saturday, August 23rd. And I remember when Matt Smith became the Doctor, it was called the 11th Hour, so I got the idea to call this podcast the third hour. Because we were trying to go with movie themes, but I can't think of any third movies that were really any good. So, yeah, we decided to go with the third hour.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. So, first thing I want to talk about, we just did Southcoast Toy and Comics show in Fairhaven, Mass. It was August 2nd. Some of us were there, some of us were not. I don't know. The show was all right.
I've never had any complaints about the show itself.
Yeah, but I know you didn't do very well.
Well, and I don't think a lot of people in Artist Alley did well. The problem is it was the week before Boston Comic Con.
So, well, then, don't they usually shuffle Artist Alley off to the side so people kind of forget you guys are even there?
We try not to think about that.
Well, I mean, you walk in.
I'm making you think about it.
When you walk in, there's the big door in front of you to the the dealer room with the celebrities.
All the cool toys.
And John Cena's dad.
And John Cena's dad with the friggin' U.S. title spinner belt. I wanted to hit him with it. But then you have to the right, there's a door that's Artist Alley. But they had some cool stuff in there. But I think the biggest downfall was last year this show was in May. And this year it was in August, and it was the week before Boston Comic Con. So people they were like, oh, I'll check it out, but I'm saving my money for Boston Comic Con.
Yeah. And, let's face it, getting people to, people will come in, they will look at your art, they will like your art, but getting people to buy art is not easy, and I dare any artist to contradict me on that one.
No, I think the best moment, it didn't even happen at my booth, it happened at the FOE Studios booth in Artist Alley. He had a print of Shock T from Star Wars, and she was there. And she walked by, saw the print, and smiled about it. I was like, that just made this whole thing worth it.
She smiled at me.
Yeah, she's a nice-looking woman, too.
She is.
I've never seen her without her makeup, and I was like, she's cute. So.
Yeah, let me tell you, the Star Wars outfit she was in the movies, it did nothing to flatter her.
Well, she's a Jedi. They're not supposed to look flattering.
I draw your attention to, what the hell? What's her name? Blue.
Ayla Secura?
Ayla Secura.
All right?
Yeah, but she... I don't know.
Yeah.
She was more active Jedi. She was more of a Jedi Knight, whereas Shock T was more the consular, the diplomat.
The person who got killed 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, she did not have good luck.
Well, and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there were 2 deleted scenes in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. There was one scene where she was captured and killed by General Grievous.
Yep.
There's a scene where she's killed by Anakin Skywalker, actually, after he raids the Jedi Temple.
Yep.
But then she doesn't actually die until The Force Unleashed, when Starkiller kills her.
Yeah.
I believe, because she's one of the boss
that
battles.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Or so shall we say, having played the game, both games all the way through, he beats her in combat, and then she kind of throws herself into this monster Sarlacc pit.
Falls.
No, she kind of lets herself float back into it, so they never really say whether or not she's dead or not. So, she could be back.
Well, look at
She could be like Boba Fett and
I was
Exactly.
just
claw
about to
her
say,
way out.
Boba
Who
Fett.
knows?
Well, they said
Maybe she'll die a fourth time.
Yeah. How many times the Doctor died?
13. No, 12 actually. No,
That depends on your definition of death.
no, he has died 13 times. David Tennant died twice.
Yeah.
Vanity issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, but South Coast, like I said, it was a little disappointing, but I had a good time. I made some money, and I will still do the show next year. I don't know if it'll still be in August. I mean, they may go back to March. I think I don't know how many years South Coast has been in business or has been happening, but it's by Altered Reality Entertainment, which same people who do TerraCon, same people who do Rhode Island Comic Con. And I've said this many times, any show that they put on, I will be there. Whether it's good, bad, I've always had a good working relationship with those people, and I will always do a show if they have one. But I'm really looking forward to Rhode Island Comic Con in November. So
I mean, look at TerraCon. I mean, that show wasn't bad. It wasn't the best show,
no,
but I think they did a nice job with it. I think they had the right idea. I just think it was a Halloween. It was a horror convention in summer. Which comes with its own set of problems.
but now on to last weekend, Boston Comic Con. We for FOE and On the Hunt were not there, but Shiny Doctor was. What'd you think?
It was good. It was very crowded. It was definitely a lot more crowded than last year's Boston Comic Con, but it wasn't rescheduled and they didn't lose all their guests.
Yeah.
So that's to be expected. But it was a good time. It was a good show. Everybody there seemed to be having a lot of fun. There were some really great costumes that were there.
Saw the
Cosplayers were
Dalek.
fantastic. The Dalek from Rhode Island Comic Con last year was there. It was pretty cool. They had a TARDIS, so it's always fun. Get me together with a TARDIS, always a good time.
Yeah.
Cosplayer guests, actually, I ended up missing a few of them because I couldn't find them, but Destiny Nicholson, Nicole Marie Jean, both easy to find, both look fantastic. The 2 days I was there out of the 3. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Didn't make it into any of the panels.
No,
that was kind of tough.
They were a little crowded.
There were some crowding issues on a couple of the panels, so yeah, I didn't make it into any of those. But
Well, I've heard that Boston Comic Con. I've heard. I'm not sure because it used to be at the Heinz Convention Center. Now it's at the Seaport World Trade Center. I honestly don't know which one's the bigger venue. I think the Seaport is, but I could be wrong because I know a lot of the restrictions, which is one of the reasons I didn't do the show this year, was because they have a lot of restrictions on how many people you can have and whatnot. And I feel like they didn't have those restrictions until they moved to the Seaport. So it's almost like maybe it is a smaller venue. I don't know. I've never actually checked the square footage of the two. I do remember.
We'll bring a measuring tape next time.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, if they have those little, 1 foot by or 12 inch by 12 inch tiles, I can figure it out if I can, walk the perimeter. But when I went there last time I went there, I think it was the last time they were at the Heinz Convention Center, and it was an interesting setup. I liked the way Artist Alley was set up there because when you walk in, you're in this big hallway, and that is Artist Alley. So you kind of have to go through Artist Alley. Then you turn left, and that's the dealer room. But even the dealer room, I felt like it was half like dealers and half artists.
You can't ignore us this time.
Even at the Seaport World Trade Center, they do a pretty good job of getting a lot of artists in there. They have some decent spacing. I honestly have no idea which one's bigger. Like you said, you kind of assume that it's Seaport because why move there if it's smaller? But
yeah.
There's still some crowding issues. It's not MegaFest as far as crowding, but I felt like I was back in New York just with getting stuck in a sea of people.
Yeah.
And then one person stops because they love a costume, they want to take a picture, and it backs everybody up. I mean,
it's kind of like that one person on the highway who slows down to look at an accident on the other side and it screws traffic for the next 20 miles.
For the next 4.5 hours. Yeah, it's a lot like that, and that's kind of what it felt like a few times. But I mean, the vendors are all kind of grouped together. The artists take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
Some of the cosplayers and a couple of guests are worked in there somewhere too. Had no idea Jerry the King Lawler was going to be there. Turned around waiting in line to get a beer, and it's like, oh, the King's behind me.
Yeah.
That's great. Didn't even know he was here because there was no advertisement for that in the guest list.
Well, the
seemed a little odd there.
Problem is I feel like I miss because Boston Comic Con, like on Facebook, they have one Facebook. But I feel like with Rhode Island Comic Con, if they have guests, they announce it on the Rhode Island Comic Con Facebook, the Southcoast Facebook, and the Terracon Facebook. So you always, oh crap, they just got so and so. Like Rhode Island Comic Con, they announced they have William Shatner, Nichelle Nichols,
Yep.
George Takei, and Walter Koenig, all from the original Star Trek. I'm actually real excited about that.
I'm super excited about that.
And then at MegaFest, which is 3 weeks later, or 2 or 3 weeks later, you have Jonathan Frakes, Deanna Troy, Marina Sirtis,
Denise Crosby.
yeah,
Tasha Yar.
are all going to be at MegaFest. So I feel like there's going to be a big Star Trek theme in November because you have Next Generation on one show and you have the original on the other. Also, Hulk Hogan's going to be at MegaFest, which I think is awesome.
That's fantastic, brother.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Hulk Hogan, we got to do our WWE Sucks Without CM Punk segment of this show. But I don't actually have a lot of CM Punk news, except for he did the Ice Bucket Challenge. If you go on WrestleZone.com, which is where I get most of my news, you might be able to find it. If not, I did post the video on the Hunt Collectibles Facebook. He did the Ice Bucket Challenge. So did Triple H. So did The Rock. So did Vince McMahon. And I know Triple H challenged Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin, so I'm waiting to see those videos.
That's great.
Stone Cold's working on finishing those beers so he can use the bucket.
I actually did the Ice Bucket Challenge. Oh, that was fun.
And to be fair, you don't have any of CM Punk's moves.
No. Well, you know what the funny thing is? CM Punk, AJ Lee, and another friend of his were actually the ones that dumped the bucket on him. He set Indians down on the ground and they dumped the stuff on him. So I almost keep forgetting that CM Punk and AJ Lee are married. And I'm sorry, I think they make such a cute couple. When I found out they were getting married, like that's awesome because they're both crazy. And speaking of the WWE, one they just changed the logo.
Again,
Which took them long enough.
Well,
now they're using the network logo.
Yeah, the WWE Network logo. It's basically the same logo, except it's smoother and more pointy, almost like Wolverine's doing it. They use it for the WWE Network, but now that's the official logo of the WWE. And I was like, okay. Honestly, I thought that they shoulda, coulda, woulda. They should have done something different when it went from the WWF to the WWE, because they just chopped off the two lines to make it an F to a W. And I felt like you should have done something different. Honestly, I think they should have just added an E and called it WWF Entertainment, because I was so pissed when it became the WWE. I was like, really?
They should have done something, as in, like, make sure your rights to that name are secure before you.
Well, I love the pictures you see online. It shows the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, and you see a panda bear hitting another panda bear with a chair.
So it makes perfect sense to somebody.
Yeah.
That bear is the champion. He should be able to hit another panda bear with a chair. And
he
not have
barely hit him.
They got so many threats when that happened.
I know. It's funny when...
Delayed reaction from the crowd there.
Okay. But you know what the funny thing is? I understand the World Wildlife Fund. It's a charitable organization. I get it. They do great things. But you really... Was it really that big of a deal to get that name? And the whole thing started over the website.
Yeah, I don't think too many people were getting confused between cuddly panda bears and
the World Wrestling Federation. Yeah. So, I don't know. That was over 10 years. That was actually in 2003 or 2002, yeah. I believe. That was a long time ago, and it still pisses me off.
It wasn't necessary, and the thing is you did that. Did you think it was going to be quiet? I mean, everybody knows what happened. Everybody who watches wrestling knows what happened there, and so great, fine. You won the rights to the name, but now you look like the biggest piece of crap on the internet.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, if they were still called,
not saying something.
But on the same token, if they were still called the WWF today, I don't think it would help the product.
No, because the product never changed. When the name changed, the product stayed the same.
Yeah.
The problem is, in the past 12 years, the product hasn't really changed.
No, it hasn't. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I have this bad feeling that Brock Lesnar's going to walk out of SummerSlam the champ tomorrow. And, I could be wrong, but I just feel like, really? Another part-timer can come in and get the title?
Well, that's what they do, because he's a huge name. He's a huge superstar. That's what draws the fans.
Well, you know what?
It's not the entertainment or the action or the actual wrestling.
Well, you know what the funny thing is I remember I was actually listening to an interview with Batista from a few months ago, and he said, did he leave to do the promotion for Guardians of the Galaxy? Yes, but the problem he had was he made it sound like it's like, okay, you want to put Daniel Bryan in the main event of WrestleMania and give him the title, that's fine. I don't care. That's great. It's good for business. But the problem is they didn't have anything for him after that changed. And it's like, my first thought was, honestly, you know who I would love to see Batista face? I think would be a better main event for SummerSlam? Batista versus Brock Lesnar.
That's true. Be the Beast versus the Animal, and I think that would definitely be a much bigger draw than Brock Lesnar versus Cena again.
Even if the title's not involved. I think that if you had that match, I would love to watch that match.
Just the entertainment factor of a no-holds-barred, SmackDown event. Brock Lesnar versus Batista, Beast versus Animal.
Well, because
anything goes.
They almost teased it like back in like January. There was a part where they both in the ring together and had like a stare down. I was like, that would be so cool, and then it never happened.
See, the reason I'm so quiet during this portion of the podcast is because the last time I really sat down and watched wrestling, the WWF was in competition with the WCW.
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah.
And I do want to bring that up, as Sting is finally signed with the WWE. He's not competing yet. I know we're going to see him there some point. I know Hulk Hogan said he wants one more match with the WWF before he retires. Honestly, if you tell me WrestleMania 31 is going to be Sting versus Hulk Hogan, that's still better than half the crap they've been feeding us for the past 12 years.
That would beat the past 3 WrestleManias.
Yeah.
Combined, easily.
Yep.
That match alone is worth the price of admission.
Because even though, are they both way up there? Yes. Honestly, you know what I think would be a better match? I mean, well, I don't know. For nostalgic purposes, I think it would be awesome, but I don't know how much they can actually do anymore. Every time I saw Sting versus Ric Flair, it was an amazing match.
Yeah, I'm not sure Ric Flair has a whole lot left in him.
I don't
Hulk
think he
Hogan
does.
just turned, 61?
Something like that,
this past week, just a few days ago.
I think Sting's still in his 50s.
Yeah, I mean, sure, they're both up there in years, but I mean, these are guys who trained for this and were in top physical condition for this for so many years. I think they could still pull off one more match. Not a high-flying, high-impact match.
No.
We don't want either one of them, breaking a hip or anything during the match.
Well, Hulk Hogan has a fake hip, I believe. But I'm
sure they both have some pretty fake parts at this point in their lives and in their careers.
Just what I mean. The most recent thing that happened in wrestling that I actually took note of was the passing of the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, that actually really sucked. I mean, but at least, and I may have said this in one of the podcasts before, I'm happy that he came back, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then he passed away. Because if it happened the other way, like if he had passed away when he did and they inducted him next year, I feel like the only reason they would have inducted him was because he died. And it's like, I'm glad it happened the way it did. It sucks that he died. I mean, honestly, I would rather have just kept the Ultimate Warrior. But the fact that it happened the way it did, I thought was really cool.
And kind of off the wrestling for a minute, but speaking of the passing, I think we got to bring up briefly the elephant on the couch here, the loss of Robin Williams.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, there's really no other way to put it.
Yeah, no, it was truly devastating, and just the outpouring of emotion and comments from everybody that knew him too. Just it keeps picking at that wound and opening it back up, and it is a huge, huge loss for anybody who knew him, anybody who ever met him, anybody who just enjoyed watching his movies.
I listened to the another podcast Christopher Titus does, comedian. And I got to tell you, he always, like, something happens, like when George Carlin's passed away, he did a podcast and he did one for Robin Williams, and I got to tell you, most of the podcasts he had a real hard time holding it together.
I mean, Robin Williams was just so good at what he did. I mean, he played everything. I mean, he was, I guess, from what I heard, he was actually filming Mrs. Doubtfire 2 when this happened.
It had been discussed, was one of the things it had been discussed years and years ago, and it fell apart.
Yeah. And
then just recently, like earlier this year, I think it was, the talk kind of resumed on it, and it was, we're going to make this happen. This is going to be a go, and then...
But just everything. I feel like every movie we grew up with was Robin Williams, at least most of them. I mean, you had Aladdin.
Yeah.
You had the original Mrs. Doubtfire. You had Hook. Yeah. Still one of my favorite Peter Pan movies. Jumanji, yeah.
Fern Gully.
He
played the bat.
Yes. I feel like any animated movie where Robin Williams played the voice was always amazing. I feel he just did such a great job. And it's one of those things, you have to look at it from the point of view, as a lot of people was like, oh, he killed himself, what the heck? I was like, yeah, but, when you have I don't know if you were there when we had this conversation with our sister about this.
So,
About how you got to look at it from a point of view of you got to look at it almost like it's a mental illness.
well,
You
he had depression.
you suffer from depression, and you look at things differently than how like somebody you like we were talking about how back like when you're bullied in high school. Do those memories still pop up? Yeah, but it's all about how you can handle it. And when you have like a mental illness that causes depression stuff like that, it's very hard to deal with things.
It seems 10 times worse, if not 100 times worse than it actually is.
And you almost have to look at it like he didn't kill himself. He basically lost the battle with this disease.
Yeah.
If you really think about it. It's kind of like somebody dying of cancer, dying of AIDS. The disease beat them. And it's like, I don't want people to think, oh, he killed himself. That shouldn't taint his legacy. You know what I mean?
No.
He had a problem, and it got the better of him.
And, the thing is, too, is because, there's been as you said, there's been a huge outpouring of just support and everything. But, what drives me nuts is the people out there who just, they have to focus on the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just, like trolls on the internet. It's news media, too. And people who just have to look at the negative side of this, it's like, you know what? Unless you have actually had to deal with something like this, unless you know what he was going through, unless you have been there, just shut up. Just keep your mouth shut.
Well, it's kind of like addiction, too.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to judge somebody who's addicted to something because I've never been addicted to anything. But it all comes down to who you are, the type of person you are. You know what I mean? I can't tell. Oh, it's easy to quit smoking. I have no idea.
No,
I've never smoked.
Yeah.
So.
But unless you walked, as steal somebody else's line here, but unless you walked that mile in their shoes, you got nothing to say.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I mean, definitely, Robin Williams, wherever you are now, rest in peace.
Yeah, you will be missed.
Definitely. So, but now I think it's time we need to lift our spirits a little bit.
Yeah, before we depress the three people listening to this, or two people.
There's some optimism right there.
Yeah. So
our 3 listeners, thank you both.
Yes, thank you very much.
And the cat sleeping in the living room.
Okay, but you know what? I'm gonna do a complete 180 here because we just talked about one thing, and hey, I want to talk about. I want to talk about sex in the world of comics.
Well, I always want to talk about sex.
Well, what brings this up, and I'm not complaining by any means. I am not a prude. I enjoy just as much as everybody else. I believe the Japanese call it fan service, but
I call it boobs.
I think the Japanese have names for many things that would confuse and frighten other people.
Oh, I think we may have discussed this in the last podcast.
No offense to Japan or the Japanese people.
No, but they have
creative people.
They have much better Saturday morning cartoons than we do. And somebody just got shot with a phaser.
There's Greedo.
Or actually, I might have even been a torpedo.
Shot first.
But anyway, what brings this up? So
it's not just random perversion.
No. The other night I watched.
It's not random at all.
The other night I watched a brand new movie that just released. It's called Batman: Assault on Arkham. It's one of the animated movies. It was extremely good, especially if you're a Batman fan or a fan of the Arkham games. Check it out. It takes place 2 years before Arkham Asylum, and it was a really great story. And Troy Baker plays the voice of the Joker, who took over when Mark Hamill retired. He does an amazing job. He did the voice of the Joker in Arkham Origins. If you play the game, you know how good he is. But anyway, what brings this up is there's a scene in that. Actually, there's a couple of scenes in that movie. For example, there is a sex scene in that movie between Harley Quinn and Deadshot.
Oh, Harley.
They don't show anything. The movie's only PG-13, so don't get your hopes up. I mean, but she basically shows up naked in Deadshot's bed.
Her ratings just went up.
She basically
Harley. Talking about naked Harley Quinn, ratings are always bound to go up.
Like I said, fan service. But Harley Quinn shows up naked in Deadshot's bed, and he eventually just says, screw it, and they do it. And she yells Yahtzee at the end. Anyway, so
what else are you gonna yell at the end?
But there's also a scene where she's topless to distract a guard so somebody else can kill him. But she's covering it so you can't see anything. And there's also a scene where Killer Frost is in a body bag pretending to be dead, and when they put her through the scanner, she's cold, so they think she's dead. And when one guy opens up the bag, you see like the cleavage, and she jumps up and kisses him, and in which case freezes the guy's head, and then when she pulls him over, his head shatters.
I'll do it.
So I watched this movie and I see these parts, and my first thought was, when did this happen? I feel like in the past few years, because I remember, like, I think it was Batman versus no, it was a Superman movie, Doomsday, the one where Superman dies. There's a scene where Lois Lane is trying to seduce Lex Luthor to get information. I remember watching it like, this is a cartoon, but when did this start?
Well, the thing is it's not. See, I think when you're younger, when you're kids and you're watching like cartoons, whether it be Batman animated series or He-Man or yes, I know I'm old, but
Not as old as him.
I'm older than him.
Are you?
Yeah, he's 33. I'm 34.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
See, he's trying to make you.
But we're all over 30.
Yes.
And we're not discussing Metamucil.
Yeah, we're all old men.
But you think about it, like back then, you watched cartoons that was just cartoons. But even back in the 80s, all right, when I was a kid, you had like heavy metal, which well, I mean, it was all cartoon.
Oh, you mean the movie Heavy Metal?
Heavy metal, not
yes.
not
the
heavy
music.
metal, the music. I mean,
the
heavy
movie.
metal.
Yeah, yes. Okay, I have seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen the second one, but I have seen.
I've seen them both. And the fan service aside, they're actually they're pretty good movies. The first one's a little confusing though.
Well, I feel like it's like 3 or 4 different. It's almost like a Pulp Fiction. It's 3 or 4 different stories.
Different stories taking place around this one object. But
it comes to Earth, tells this girl, I'm going to kill you, but first I'm going to tell you my life story.
Yeah, which is something the Joker would do.
It just makes sense. I mean, I'm going to kill you, but I want you to know why. So here's my life story.
Yes. Meanwhile, I'm plotting my escape. But anyway. But it's one of those things where the adult cartoon thing isn't so much new. I think it's just with the Batman, like the Arkham games.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a lot, back in the 90s, you think of Batman, you think Batman the animated series and everything, and unless you're a fan of like the comics, like the Frank Miller comics and all that stuff, where it gets more adult. You say Batman, you think like Batman the animated series, where the most he does is punch a guy, and usually it's a big flash,
Pow!
And you don't see it. But
no, you're going too far back. You're thinking Adam West.
Well, yeah. but on the same token, that does show you that I think things. But I think that also goes like I remember. Well, I don't remember, but I remember hearing about how when Elvis Presley was popular, he couldn't shake his hips on TV.
And he did. But they
always showed up from the waist up. And like nowadays, it was like, oh, can Britney Spears dress? It went from
Miley Cyrus can do it.
Well, I feel like it went from can Elvis Presley show his hips to can Britney Spears show her breasts? You know what I mean? And so it's like I understand the progression or evolution of TV, and I enjoy it. But I feel like all of a sudden, like it's not just the animated movies either. Like there was in one of the New 52 Suicide Squad, there's a scene where Deadshot and Harley hook up, and they're about to get it on, and then they get interrupted. And there's also I don't know if it was New 52 or another one, but there's actually an issue where Catwoman and Batman actually do it too. And like I said, I'm not complaining, but I'm trying to understand when did this happen. I feel like I kind of fell out of comics for a year, and all of a sudden I come back, everybody's naked and doing it. And I remember years ago you had these comics like Vampirella and Lady Death. You had all these beautiful women, but you could never see the good, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think some of it has to do with that subtle change to the comic book code. It used to be that the hero had to be the clear-cut hero. The villain had to be a clear-cut villain. There couldn't be nudity. There couldn't be sex. There couldn't be foul language. And then over time, gradually, it just kind of it changed. People either started ignoring the code and doing independent comics that weren't getting reviewed the same way, or it just, like you said, basically the evolution of it. It used to be that we can only show Elvis from the chest up because he's going to shake his hips, and we don't want to show that on television.
Yeah.
How much of Britney Spears or Miley Cyrus can we really
get away with
here? How
Miley Cyrus.
I don't think anybody wants to see Miley Cyrus naked.
But I did want to say, based on what you just said, the other thing too is, now everybody's got access to the internet. Everybody's got, I'm working on a comic right now. I can do that any way I want. All right, I've got my the Devil Girl in there and everything. If I decide in one comic that she can walk around the whole comic butt naked, nobody's there to stop me. And that's what
Well,
you're dealing with now.
What Brian was saying too about the whole concept of good and evil, clean cut. I remember in the old like Adam West TV show, like we mentioned before, like there was always a little bit of sexual tension between Batman and Catwoman, but she would always use it to get the better of Batman. And I feel like in the future comics and in the TV shows and the movies, it wasn't so much, oh, I'm going to make out with him to make him think I'm good. It came down to she really has feelings for him, and that's what screws her. She's like, well, crap, I have feelings for Batman, but I still want to steal this diamond. You know what I mean?
But I think too that part of the, because you got to think that, I mean, if you look, anybody who's gone online and who reads independent comics and everything, and I don't mean like comics just like you see an independent comic shelf at Newbury Comics and other stores.
Yeah.
But if you go online, there are plenty of independent artists and writers out there who are doing their own comics, sometimes just on the web, and they're doing whatever they want. So you got to figure that the mainstream comics have to look at this as, wow, these guys are really good. We got to compete.
Well, I feel like we've said this on this podcast before. Is sex sells?
It does.
And that's been the same way. That's been music.
Yeah,
movies.
it's always been like that. There's no denying it. There's no keeping it down. It's just a fact.
And I just feel like nowadays you can get away with more. Like it came down to. I think I said this already. It's like when you had the old comics. It's like, oh, I want to see Batman and Catwoman do it, and it would never happen. And all of a sudden, we live in a world where it can happen. It has happened. You know what I mean? Because you always have like I said earlier, you have like someone like Lady Death and Vampirella. You see them, it's like, oh my god, these characters are so beautiful. But we live in a world now. You may actually get to see them fulfill a fantasy. You know what I mean?
I used to read the Lady Death comics back when they were still Chaos Comics, and I got to tell you that as an independent company, they pushed that limit every way they can. I mean, anybody who knows the Lady Death comics knows she wore very little as it is.
Yeah.
But they would
Witchblade too. I mean, Lady Death, Witchblade, Vampirella. You gotta throw that one in there too.
Yeah.
Scantily clad, but they
Dark Child.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were also marketed to a specific audience, that being teenage boys.
Yes.
Because the big misconception, and believe it or not, even in the 21st century, some people still have this crazy idea that comics are just for kids.
They're not.
They're not. Not by
Well,
any
that's
stretch.
that's like video games too.
Yeah.
People think video games are just for kids. Like, no, I played video games where we're like, I would never let my kid play this.
No.
You know, like Grand Theft Auto is a prime example. In the newest Grand
That's
Theft,
the perfect example.
in the newest game, I don't know how far you've gotten into it. You can go to a strip club and you can get a lap dance,
Yeah.
and they don't hide. I mean, they show everything. I mean, it's
Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem. I feel like the older games there were still some limits.
No, I mean the new
new
newest
Duke Nukem. Yeah, that
The
definitely.
one we waited forever for that took a huge steaming
for 12
dump on
years.
our ambitions, our hopes and dreams for it.
I played it through once and I was like, I'm never gonna play this again. It was fun. I will say that it was fun, but it has no replay value.
But way back when I used to work at well, it was Babbage's at the time. They're no longer around, but was it Babbage's or was it? I don't remember where exactly I was working at the time, but this this woman came up and asked me about and I want to say it was Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, number 3, like for
No,
PlayStation 2.
I think this was like the first one or something.
Well, the first ones were like they were like overhead view. You couldn't
Okay,
see much.
well, the first of the new.
The first one, the first of the new one was Grand Theft Auto 3, which came out for
Okay.
PlayStation 2.
And she said, and she actually asked me, would this be appropriate for my kid? He's 11. And I'm like,
And the immediate response was no.
and I'm just like, no. I said, I don't really recommend this for anybody like 17
Well, I feel like maybe 15, 16.
It also
probably gonna win.
yeah, but the thing is I've seen parents like Diablo. I've seen parents letting like 9-year-old kids buy Diablo. Now Diablo's not a bad game, not like Grand Theft Auto
Yeah.
as far as like sex, but violence-wise, it's like I just don't feel like there's a lot of.
Speaking of violence, this is a little off topic, but I just want to say because I know there've been parents out there for years who have said like violent games create violent people. No, violent games prevent violent people.
Yeah.
It does become kind of a cathartic outlet for
It does.
that rage from dealing with stupid people or
Well,
waiting in line behind that guy who just has to pay all in pennies for his $157 order. And you just like,
Using a credit card.
I am going to be playing Grand Theft Auto when I get home
Exactly.
because I need to let out this aggression. This
We've
rage.
all had that. You come home from work, bad day, and you want to mow down a couple hundred people on Grand Theft Auto. And I would rather do it on Grand Theft Auto than do it out there.
In Burger King.
Yeah. But I feel like parents.
They said I could have it my way, and they screwed it up.
But I feel like a lot of those parents are like, oh, well, you should be able to suppress those urges. No. If you ever want, you know what? If you ever get a chance, read The 7 Deadly Sins by Corey Taylor. Because you know something? It was something he said in his book, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said the 7 deadly sins, so to speak, like sloth, gluttony, rage, all these things are human nature. They're all things we feel every day. If acting on them is one thing, feeling them is not necessarily a sin.
Here's the thing. Here's my point to this. Okay. What happens if you suppress your you get hungry when the tank's empty.
Mm-hmm.
When your body needs food, it tells you it's hungry.
When Metamucil's done its job. Sorry,
But
inside joke.
But what happens if you suppress that long enough?
You die.
Yeah. Or at very least, you pass out and have to go to the hospital.
But that's... And I don't know how we got... I feel like we're drifting into the 7 deadly sins. But we've all had those... Like sloth. We've all had those days where it's like, you know what? I don't want to get out of bed. I want to lay in bed and play Minecraft all day.
I call those Mondays.
Yes. Or you have...
Especially after con weekend.
Yeah.
On that Monday, you just... I am not getting out of bed except to go to the bathroom and...
Well, that's another thing. Eating, gluttony. There was days I want to eat everything. I want to go to BK and get a Whopper, then go to Subway and get a freaking steak and cheese. It's...
If they don't want me to eat that whole thing of cookie dough, then they need to make it smaller.
Yes.
But you need to... But what it comes down to is...
Self-control.
Self-control, and the problem is and this is the part that cracks me up, and I guess we kind of got it on... Getting off on a rant here.
A little bit, but
I don't want to get off on a rant here, but...
But you know something? 1 minute, and this is the thing I hear a lot, and this is what kind of irks me, is 1 minute, if you complain about some kid acting out in public, the parent will look at you and say, oh, well, he's just being a kid. Okay, but on the other side of the coin, okay, he's just being a kid, but that means that if he's out of control, whether it's because of a video game or not, you're the parent. Why did you get him that game?
I actually had a person once at work. I'll let you...
Well, I was just going to say, on the other side of that, too, is, all right, so your kid's out of control. Why aren't you reining them in?
Yeah.
Anybody who has ever worked in retail knows what it's like to see a kid running around the store, being a complete maniac, ripping things apart, jumping all over displays, ruining the way things are set up, and the parents off somewhere else doing their own thing. And it's like, you want to yell at that kid, but the second you do, the parent's going to come over and go, what are you doing yelling at my kid? Well, you're not paying any attention to them, and somebody's got to teach this kid that it's not okay to do this.
I had a customer who, the way she got, or was trying to get her kid to stop acting out, it's like, oh, if you don't stop, I'm going to go tell the manager. I'm like, you're his parent. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'll throw you out. But the story I was going to tell, I had a woman years ago, this is back when our mom worked with me.
Yeah.
And she told these two girls to stop throwing. They had like this metal ghost thing that they were throwing around the store. And the mother got upset. She's like, why are you telling my kids to stop throwing that thing? She's like, because I'm not supposed to be throwing things in the store. She's like, well, they're not throwing glass. And she came up and gave me the same spiel. I was like, well, what if they hit something that's glass? It's like, you're telling me it's okay for your kids to throw things in my store.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the world we live in today. I was like, if my parents would beat my ass if I acted that way.
Well, it's like they don't want to take the responsibility. Like, this whole conversation portion started talking about video games and parents letting their kids play the violent video games and then blaming the violent video games when some kid turns out to be a complete sociopath or psychopath who goes and
Yeah.
shoots up their school
Yeah.
or shoots up a Burger King because their Whopper was undercooked or
Or
overcooked
had
or
tomatoes
whatever.
on it when they asked them not.
That is a very serious issue.
It is. It waters down the burger.
But the
sorry.
parents, the first place they look is violent music, violent video games, violent comic books, violent TV and movies, and everything has to adjust to accommodate these people who don't want to be parents.
Exactly. And that's it. Well, somebody said this. I don't know who said it, but whoever there is a genius. Is when you never try to please everybody because you can't. And when you try to please everybody, you basically come down to don't try to please anybody except yourself.
Yeah.
Basically.
You can't please everybody, so don't try. If everybody is pissed off, then you've done a good job.
Well, I think it, and I call it the everybody gets a trophy thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, okay, fine. You don't want to upset anybody. You don't want to upset the parents. You don't want to upset the children. You don't want the children to know that they can fail, that they can lose. Well, and again, I'm going to quote one of my favorite comedians. When that child is 33 years old, living in your basement and asking to borrow another $100 for gas because picking his nose is not a job skill that people are looking for in the current market. You can look back on this and say, gee.
No, the work field has definitely its fair share of nose pickers at the moment. It doesn't need any more.
And be careful, because that might be most of our listeners. No offense out there. There's nothing wrong with being 30-something living at home.
And besides,
right, Dan?
Shut up.
He'd actually, in his defense, he doesn't live at home anymore.
No. But
So.
and I'm not picking on anybody who lives at home, because in this economy, you got to take whatever you can get. My point wasn't the living at home thing. My point was, and it's not even against the children themselves, because it's not their fault if their parents don't do their job. And what it comes down to is, if you're gonna have a kid, don't sit there and tell me you don't know what it's like, you don't know this, you don't know that. If you're gonna have a kid, then take responsibility for the kid.
And that wasn't a shot at you either.
I didn't think it was, but since you had to point it out, now I'm second guessing.
No, I don't want. I remember I said something like that one time about, I was joking about him. Then I was like, wait, but then it's like, well, technically you have your own place, so it's really. So I'm not.
No, I'm not making fun of anybody.
I'm not making fun of either one of you. You know, you're my co-host. You're my friends.
Live where you want to live. Love who you want to love.
This is a safe space for all of us.
Ooze, Fraba.
I feel like I need an adult now.
But I feel like we could talk about what's wrong with this world over and over, and we could probably have a whole podcast about it.
I think we just did.
Well, but I feel like it's time to get back to
Yeah, what do we got on this list?
the world of nerd. Well, this whole thing started with talking about sex in comics and the animated movies and in the comic universe, and
then it escalated quickly.
Well, it did.
I think it proves that we can evolve to ranting.
Well, yeah, I went from sex to how it happened to how the world has changed to how parents are trying to stop the change to what's wrong with the world. So it all makes sense. When you go back onto this podcast, it makes sense how we got to where we want. But I suddenly realized we're talking about world issues, and you people, if you are listening, want to hear nerd news.
It went from
and it
sex.
all ties together somehow.
It does.
Just don't poke at it because it unravels pretty quickly.
It works good if you don't think about it for more than.
Well,
10
not only that,
seconds.
plus if you are
Like
listening,
the
you
world.
might even agree with us. And I hope you do, because if you do, I have hope for you, and I'm proud of you.
It went from sex to violence, which is brava.
The audience agrees.
This is a safe
Both of
place. They're actually
Stop
in
saying that.
the. Actually, our audience is in the kitchen cooking stuff.
It's
right
not
now.
your fault. It's not
your
your
fault.
fault. Yeah, the Peanut Gallery is
Sure
not
it
with
is.
us tonight to chime in with their own comments, unfortunately.
But they're busy, so they told us to go do this podcast so they can cook snacks. Now,
Sure.
there's
Hey, wait a minute. It is my fault, okay? I'm a responsible adult, and I take responsibility for the fact that I'm a psycho, and it's my fault.
well, you know what's funny is I had a conversation with my boss the other day about. We were actually talking about Robin Williams and his passing and committing suicide, and he was talking about how he never understood the whole suicide thing. I didn't get into the big conversation with him because I just didn't have time. I didn't care at the moment. But it's one of those things where I've never had a desire to kill myself. I've had a desire to kill other people.
That's always been my stance.
Hence why Grand Theft Auto, it really helps.
But you haven't acted on it,
No, I haven't.
thanks to Grand Theft Auto. And
30 years old, and
and Doom.
I have not violently attacked or killed anybody yet. But speaking of violence in
There
movies,
is hope.
if you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you do. The movie is amazing. The soundtrack is amazing. Guardians of the Galaxy. My brother has not seen it yet.
Yeah.
Shame.
Unfortunately, movies cost money.
Yeah, but it's an amazing movie.
I'm an artist. We don't
and
have
it's
money.
you know what the funny thing about Guardians of the Galaxy? When I first heard it was coming out, I was like, "What the hell's Guardians of the Galaxy?"
Yeah, I didn't know.
The only reason I was gonna go see it is because it's part of the Avengers universe, so I will check it out. And then I saw the trailer, the original teaser, and they played "Hooked on a Feeling," and I was like, I might have to. It almost seemed like a mixture between The Losers and like I'm trying to remember what the other thing was. Like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was just
back on topic.
that was just a taste. Sure. I'm not talking to you people. I just had a lovely young lady offer me a beer.
She is quite lovely.
She is. But
Absolutely.
But no.
She will never listen to this to hear that, but she is quite lovely.
She is.
Well,
but
that's
anyway.
okay, because nobody else is listening.
But Guardians of the Galaxy, amazing movie. It's funny. Like I said, it makes me think of it's like a mixture between Hitchhiker's Guide and The Losers. It's just amazing, and hopefully Dan will see it someday.
I haven't. I plan to go see it as soon as possible. But I gotta say, if the trailers didn't get you, go on YouTube and just type in Groot dancing, and that alone will want
Baby
want
Groot
to see the movie.
dancing to
Michael Jackson.
I Want You Back by the Jackson 5.
5.
I mean, how awesome is that?
Okay, it is. If they ever make one of those little dancing Groot figures, I am buying that.
They are working on it.
I feel like they have to, or there'll be a riot.
Oh yeah.
Somebody actually did make their own. I forget what he used for the materials. I know the starting product for it was one of those old dancing
the solar powered.
Well, not one of the solar powered ones. It was one of the older ones, like way back, probably when we were in grade school. There used to be those.
I was going to
say,
those
little
you better
ones
include yourself.
The dance to music. Well, I have to. We're all old men.
Oh. I know what you're talking about.
Somebody took one of those. They bought it on eBay and they made their own little dancing Groot.
But
awesome. There is a company that's working on it. Unfortunately, I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
Oh God, my wife would know.
But they are working on coming out with that because it is a fantastic piece of marketing. That's
it is.
One of the things with Guardians of the Galaxy. First of all, it is a great movie. It's a fantastic movie with a lot of really funny one-liners, some really great action, an amazing soundtrack.
If you want to know how good it is, I forgave Dave Bautista for all of his past WWE sins, including the blue shorts, after I saw this movie.
He played
for
Drax,
24
right?
straight hours, I did not call him Blutista.
Yeah. Blutista.
He was amazing in this movie. He was funny. He was awesome. He was Drax the Destroyer.
I
wasn't overly good at metaphors. You know,
I
kind of went over his head.
I saw Drax, especially when I looked up Dancing Baby Groot. I saw Drax. I'm like,
that's Batista.
That's Batista. That's.
And I also want to say.
Oh, so that's what he was doing before he came back and weaseled his way into WrestleMania and then disappeared for marketing.
I do want to say though that I don't care what color her skin is. Zoe Saldana always looks amazing.
Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan. Both.
And Karen Gillan.
Absolutely.
Doctor Who fan.
Fantastically, amazingly hot. I had a hard time dealing with the fact that she shaved her head for the movie, but after seeing her as the evil chick Nebula,
yep,
absolutely badass.
Amazing.
It's definitely worth it.
And I'm just so glad that she's not one of those people. Okay, she was a companion of Doctor Who, and then that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's moved on to some awesome things. She was amazing in that movie. Even painted blue with mechanical pieces on her, she looked amazing.
Hey, Star Trek proved there's nothing wrong with blue and green alien women.
No, that's Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true.
Actually reminds me, I saw a picture of a girl. It was a cosplay girl. She was a pregnant woman. She dressed up in the green classic Star Trek alien.
Yeah.
And she had a sign that said, "It's Captain Kirk's baby." And I thought that was amazing.
It's just priceless right there.
It is.
I mean, that's an absolutely fantastic cosplay right there. Every now and then you get one of those. There was a guy at Boston Comic Con walking around dressed as Rick Grimes. and he had a big sign that he was walking around with saying, "Have you seen Carl?"
You know what? I actually just read an article. I didn't actually read the article. There's a thing going around. It says, "Is Daryl Dixon in Walking Dead gay?"
Who cares?
Well, exactly. Who cares? But at the same time, I mean, if you think about it, this is a character that, for going on 5 seasons now, does not exist in the comics.
Yeah.
For anyone who's read the Walking Dead comic series, he does not exist in the books. He's been compared to a similar character in
Yes.
the books, though, called Jesus, who is in fact gay, and that's kind of what prompted the rumors in the first place. I think was just that character being a total badass, Daryl being a total badass on the show, Norman Reedus' character, and so I mean that kind of brought about the talk. And the showrunners have said, we haven't really explored that issue,
Yeah.
but
We're
not going to say
zombies.
no. It's if he ever stops, being a total badass and mowing down zombies with the crossbow, maybe we'll look into, is he into Carol? Is he into Beth? Is he into Rick? I mean,
Well-
but at the same time, it's not going to change the fact that that's a character that was created for the show that is a total badass.
Well, that's-
thanks in no small part to Norman Reedus.
And I don't want to get too far onto this, but I feel like the gay issue in a lot of these things, and like they said, like Ian McKellen, who plays Magneto, he plays Gandalf. He's amazing. And then somebody made, but he's gay, and my exact words were, "Who cares?" He's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
I love every movie. I mean, I've seen movies just because he's in it.
Not to start a whole new rant. We've already completed the rant portion of this, but you said it best. You've said it several times. We're in the 21st century. Are we really still having this discussion?
Well, that's just, I hear that conversation all the time. It's like, gay rights and everything. It's like, it's 2014 and we're still talking about this.
Yeah.
I mean, and I live in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts was one of the first states to legalize gay marriage. I said, good. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
As long as you're happy, be happy.
Yes.
And
be happy, be
live
married.
how you want to live, love who you want to love. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter who it is, and nobody has any call to question it at any time. So, like we were saying with Ian McKellen, okay, yeah, Dumbledore, well, and he wasn't Dumbledore, but just
but Dumbledore,
the
the
revelation that
character.
Dumbledore, the character, was gay. It was
Yeah.
kind of like people were shocked by that, and at the same time, it's like he was still a badass wizard.
He was.
I don't care if he was gay or
Beast.
straight or anything in the middle or even further than that. Who cares?
The X-Men comics. They came. It was like a couple years ago. They came out that the Beast is gay.
But he's still,
It's like, okay, wonderful. That
Captain
really wasn't.
But
Jack-
it's just one facet.
Yeah.
Captain Jack Harkness.
Jack Harkness is a perfect example because
John
He's
Barrow.
not gay.
The character is not gay, but
No.
you have this hypersexual
Omnisexual.
character who, if it has a pulse,
Yeah.
he is willing to hit on it.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's male, female, rabbit.
And John
and
Barrowman.
John Barrowman himself is openly gay.
Yeah.
and
He's still a great actor.
And he's one of the nicest guys in the world. He's
Yeah.
such a fantastic, just human being in general. So who cares one way or the other? We've got openly gay TV characters. We've got openly gay comic book characters. So the revelation of Daryl on Walking Dead being gay or straight or anywhere in the middle really is irrelevant.
I have a closed door policy, and what I mean by that is I don't care what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care who you love. I don't care what you do. I don't care. I mean,
No.
everybody has a right to be happy.
Of all the things, like, with all the effort people put into talking about whether or not this person is gay, straight, bi, whatever, something, I don't waste my time thinking about that or worrying about that. All right, you say John Barrowman is okay. John Barrowman is gay. Okay, great. Tell me when he's going to be back on Doctor Who.
Yes, when will we get a Torchwood season 5?
Exactly.
Or when will we just get Captain Jack on season 8 or season 9 of Doctor Who? I just want to see Captain Jack back.
Or is he going to keep making appearances in Arrow? That's what I want to know.
Something.
I don't
What do
want
we
to know
got?
what.
Ooh, those came out really nice.
We are being delivered snacks.
Yes.
This is a fantastic day.
And if you hear us all kill over, you'll know what happened.
Poison.
But no,
Look
I
for
think
the body.
yes. Well, I don't want to give my address or anything. But if you hear about a death of 3 nerds in the news, you know what happened.
Let's get back on topic.
But let's get back on top. No, but no. Like I said, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like I said, it's 2014. I think it's time to move on to our next complaint.
I think we can honestly say that the official policy of this podcast is whether you are gay, straight, bisexual, omnisexual, we don't care. If you're cool, you're cool. If you're not, you're not.
Exactly.
Now,
But Brian just stepped out for a second. He'll be back pretty soon. I almost want to wait for him to come back.
yeah, because he hated this.
Yeah, I want to discuss this. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I will wait for him because I think
I'm
he will
waiting.
tell you his honest opinion of it. And for those of you who are wondering, what are they talking about? I'll just tell you. I'm talking about the new and apparently improved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. But I will wait a few moments for our resident cosplay to return. Another movie, by the way, that my brother Dan has not seen.
I'm waiting for Netflix. I'm waiting for Netflix and probably a day that I'm either really bored or homesick in bed. You know.
Oh, that reminds. I remember I have a friend of mine. He was homesick in bed once, and he has cable in his room, and he couldn't get out of bed. He was so sick he couldn't get out of bed, and has lost the control. And he was watching HBO, and it was the same 4 movies over and over and over again.
They still do that.
And one of them was the Hannah Montana movie.
Oh.
And he told me the story. I was cracking up. So what I did was I actually got him a Hannah Montana candle, and we got him a birthday cake at work. And the candle's actually still sitting in my office. He actually doesn't even work at that store anymore, but I still have the candle in the office. And I just did it. It's like, you watch Hannah Montana. Actually, I can't give him to. I've actually seen the Hannah Montana movie before Miley Cyrus lost her freaking mind and started taking her clothes off, and we all realized, no, put them back on, please. But
yeah, Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus. No.
Darth Vader said it perfectly. But now that Brian is back, I feel like it's time to discuss what
Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles.
Please no.
Yes.
I'm still getting over the huge steaming dump that Michael Bay took on my childhood.
We want our audience to experience
Transformers.
your pain.
Oh.
Hey, Transformers. Just because, look,
The first one was good.
the second one wasn't bad. The third one sucked, but they made up for it by following the Victoria's
fourth-
Secret model up the stairs.
The 4th Transformers was better than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, from what you've been saying, that's
And
not
that
hard.
should tell you all you need to know.
But no. So we went and saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. Now I will say this: when it comes to HBO, if there's nothing else on, I will watch it. But after watching it, there are things I liked and things I disliked. One of the things I disliked was the story, the way they changed it.
There was a story?
Yeah, no, but like they made they got Megan Fox to play April O'Neil, and my first question
Always
is,
a sin.
what the hell did she have to do to get back on Michael Bay's good side? And remember, I try to keep this clean.
I was going to say, would you like us to weigh in?
I had to edit out the sound effects there. For that one.
They fired her for Transformers 3, but she comes back for Ninja Turtles. I was like, really? And don't get me wrong, I don't mind Megan Fox. She's a nice looking girl. But on the same token, when she played, I heard she was playing April. I'm like, really? That's the best we could do?
Yeah.
But also, she had, without spoiling too much, she had more of a history with the Turtles than April O'Neil ever had.
And that includes going back to the comic books.
Oh, I really don't want to see this movie now.
Now,
Let me say this. The reason, just to quickly interject here, the reason that I really wanted to see the movie was because I got an email from AMC Theaters saying, if you come see this movie on opening weekend, we'll give you a Ninja Turtle mask. I got Raphael. I was okay with it.
I can get it at Walmart.
But I went into that movie with absolutely no expectations and still left disappointed.
well, I feel, and I'm not going to give away anything you can't tell from the trailer, but you look at Shredder, who basically looks like Wolverine in Shredder's armor. Like, he has, like, these knives that shoot out of his arm.
I was gonna ask about that.
He can shoot them out. They go in the wall, then he has this magnet that brings them back. Like, that's not Shredder. I mean,
Kevin Nash was Shredder.
Well, no, Kevin Nash was
Damn
Super
right.
Shredder. But seriously, what, like the original...
Super Shredder.
When you go back to the original Ninja Turtles movies, the first two, I thought were amazing, even though they weren't allowed to use their weapons in the second one. But I like the way Shredder looked, I thought was awesome. I thought, and the fact that he was just a ninja. I mean, he had his knives, his blades, but he wasn't freaking a robot or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he wasn't this huge, unstoppable cyber ninja. You know, it wasn't. They went the Superman road with Shredder when Michael Bay made his version of the Ninja Turtles, and I have to call it his version of the Ninja Turtles because I cannot lump that in with all the other media that exists for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
So they called the Transformers Bayformers, so we'll call the Ninja Turtles Teenage Mutant Bay Turtles. Or something.
It just sounds like a new species.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely a new species.
That's true.
I think we just call them Bay Turtles in general. They got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Bay Turtles.
Well, the funny thing is they were originally just going to call the movie Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And they had such a negative feedback on that title, they threw Teenage Mutant back.
Well, they also said originally that they were going to be of alien origin. Well, I think, and a lot of people were pissed off about that, but when I realized what they were talking about, what they were originally going to do was, and they may still do this because they didn't really explain much, the mutagen, the green ooze.
By much you mean anything.
Yeah. I felt like in the original script that the green mutagen ooze was of alien origin.
Right, and that would be right in line with the comics.
Yeah.
You know,
I thought it was from the gumball machine at the supermarket.
Well, in the original movies, it was a chemical. It was like basically a waste chemical.
TGRI.
TGRI. Well, now it's TCRI.
It's TGRI.
Or like TGI Fridays.
Yeah, there you go.
But
don't eat there anymore.
Now I want mozzarella sticks and tater skins.
Well, we have potato skins. Well, I'm sure we'll get mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, eventually.
But I mean, if you don't want to think and you just want to enjoy a fun movie with turtles beating up people, go see it. It's a fun movie.
And Johnny Knoxville voicing Leonardo.
Yeah, and it's funny.
I think it was Leonardo. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it was. I didn't even actually realize that until the end.
Quoted on that.
Raphael is still a badass in this movie. He always has been, but
they seem to stay to the character.
Yeah, I mean the character. One thing I actually liked about the movie was you have the four turtles: Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael. They were all different shapes and sizes. Like Raphael had a big build. Leonardo was more of an average. Michelangelo was kind of short. Donatello was kind of in the middle, and it was cool because they were all different. They all were the exact same height and build with a different mask.
Well, that was, I mean, especially back in the old days of the original Ninja Turtle cartoon series, that was so that they could basically just change the color of the mask and say it's a different Ninja Turtle.
It saves the artists and whatnot. It saves them some difficulty in having to remember, this is Raphael's shape, this is Michelangelo's shape. It made it a lot easier on them.
For those who remember the old He-Man series, the same body, it was a different color and a different head.
Speaking of old cartoons, getting back to the sex and comic thing just briefly, if you ever want to see what I'm talking about, watch the old 90s Spider-Man TV show. Every single time somebody kissed somebody, it was in slow-mo, and it was very awkward. It was just it was always that scene that just made like, ugh, you know? But it was always like slow, like they slow down the frame, like a click, 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 kiss. Go back and watch it, you'll notice it. But yeah, so that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think as soon as I heard Michael Bay was doing it, I was like, I already knew what to expect.
That was when my expectation level hit 0.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's think about it.
That would be like James Cameron announcing that he's doing Masters of the Universe. It's like, dude, James, loved you when you did Terminator, loved you when you did Alien.
At least
then you did Titanic,
yeah,
and Avatar, and I just want to punch you in the face.
Spoiler alert, the boat sinks.
Dude, I haven't made it that far in the movie yet, because it's like 18 and a half hours long.
No, you saw the director's cut, I see.
Yeah, see, I saw the me cut where I watched the scene where he's drawing her naked, and that was pretty much it. After that, I was done.
Since you started singing that, I just want to take a brief moment to thank Celine Dion for canceling every appearance that she intended to sing at for the foreseeable future. She has finally responded to my emails and letters and death threats. They weren't death threats; they were punch-in-the-face threats. Let's face it. I don't feel strongly enough.
But you know how much it costs to fly to Las Vegas?
That's why I did not punch her in the face.
Yeah.
It is very expensive to get out there and punch somebody in the face. It's the same reason Michael Bay and James Cameron have not yet been punched in the face.
Oh, speaking of Michael Bay, was it the Godzilla? How it should have ended. Afterwards, he said, "Oh, make sure you see Michael Bay and the guy who did the '98 Godzilla."
Roland Emmerich.
Yes, basically some kid telling Godzilla, "Make sure you take care of those two bastards too." And that's another.
Well,
I
for the '98 Godzilla, yeah, that's standalone.
And I
enough
said this.
to,
I said
not
this.
like Roland Emmerich anymore.
I saw this on the last podcast. I love the new Godzilla. They just released the NECA 24-inch Godzilla. I want it. I plan on getting. I ain't paying $70 at the moment, but I want it. The movie was amazing, and I'm sorry, Godzilla '98 was freaking terrible. It really was.
But can I just say, all right, like look at Michael Bay's track record. Okay, Transformers. Now I liked Transformers minus the third one.
I like the first one.
I like the second one too.
The second one wasn't bad. The third
Out of
one was
the
horrible.
four that have been done, the first one was good. I did not like the second one.
Really?
I only a Prime can kill a Prime, and then 5 seconds later, Megatron kills Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Well,
So
but
Megatron's a Prime? No.
here's what.
So Optimus is alive? No.
Here's what
Okay,
I.
so script.
Here's what I did not like about the first one. I love that movie, but the one thing I did not like about that movie,
Megan Fox.
well, if she wore less, I'd like her more.
Megan Fox
Hey, she was
speaking line.
leaning over Bumblebee.
If
Anyway.
the entire movie was just Megan Fox, leaning over, checking out the engine in Bumblebee, I'm okay with that. But the second you let her speak,
Well, that was before the plastic surgery.
boom.
But the what I hated about the original Transformers movies, when he's fighting Megatron at the end, when Optimus Prime is fighting Megatron, he's getting his ass kicked. And I'm like, Optimus Prime is a badass, and they didn't show it. And that's why, I mean, he technically in the second, spoiler alert, in the second one he dies before, and he comes back at the end, but he screwed up Megatron and Starscream. Like, he ripped Starscream's arm off and started beating the crap out of him with it. He was a badass up until the point where he got it through the chest. And I was like, that's awesome. Optimus Prime's a badass, and that's how they should have done the first movie. And the same thing with the third one. He was kind of a badass.
But see, if they'd done that in the first movie, we wouldn't have Shia LaBeouf running in to save the day. 'Cause
Yeah.
if anybody is going to save the day when giant alien robots are beating the shit out of each other, it's Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Right. But what I was gonna say is, okay, Michael Bay. He did the Transformers movies.
Yep.
Then he did Battleship, which was Transformers without Transformers.
But with Gambit.
Yeah. But so when Michael Bay gets brought on to do Ninja Turtles, of course there's going to be a Transformer in it. It's going to be Shredder. Now, here's the thing. Michael Bay shouldn't be doing Ninja Turtles, okay? Next thing you know, they'll get him to do the live-action My Little Pony movie, which...
There is a Michael Bay movie that I am excited to see.
What?
If you say Thundercats, you will
No.
be added to the
No,
face
no,
punch
no, no,
list.
no.
If Michael Bay ever gets his hands on the Thundercats franchise, I may be in the news.
No, but there is a Michael Bay movie I'm excited to see because I thought the second one was better than the first one. Bad Boys 3.
That was Michael Bay?
That was Michael Bay.
It was Michael Bay, yes.
And I thought, you know
And
what
I
the funny...
am excited for Bad
Where's the
Boys 3. When
Transformers?
Martin Lawrence announced that, my head blew up
But you know
almost as
what?
big as
Speaking
when
of Bad
Rhode
Boys-
Island Comic Con announced George Takei.
Speaking of Bad Boys, though, you know what pisses me off is Bad Boys 2 was listed as one of the worst top 10 worst sequels of all
Oh,
time.
I never listened to critics.
I'm like, did you watch that movie? I actually like that one better than the first one.
Film critics watching movies is like Hollywood reading the book when they adapt it into a movie.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. They
Right.
get paid to give their opinion either by the studio that wants them to say something good or by somebody who wants them to say something bad. It's the same thing with Hollywood when they turn a book into a movie. They don't read the book.
No, they don't.
They say, this is what we're going to do, and then we're given the giver.
They pay somebody to read the book and adapt it into a script.
Read Jurassic Park and you'll know what you're talking about
Yeah.
then.
But you know, all right, Michael Bay. You want him to do an adaptation from an old '80s cartoon? Okay.
Gummy
Out.
bears.
Oh, bouncing
Bouncing
here and there and everywhere.
To be fair, that's '90s. But don't give Michael Bay.
Didn't that start in '89 though?
It might have. You might be right on that one. But don't give Michael Bay.
Go ahead.
Ninja Turtle. Don't give Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But-
Give Michael Bay.
Because Michael Bay should not be given turtles of any variety, whether they're ninjas, mutants, or
Give Michael
teenagers.
Bay
Yep.
Voltron.
That could be cool.
Yes, he's good at big robots.
Well, speaking of Voltron,
He knows his way around big robots.
they're
But let's face it took 4 movies to get the Dinobots.
that's the only reason the fourth one did as well as it did, because I was just happy that Grimlock was
Okay,
finally
so
in
we
it.
won't
Optimus
see-
Prime riding a Grimlock, brandishing a sword.
So they'll
Your
spend
argument
That
is
is
invalid.
all you
Yeah.
need to know.
So they'll spend 3 movies trying to find all 5 keys.
You know who should do Voltron? It would be 4.5 hours long. We would never see the assembled robot. Ang Lee,
Ang Lee,
The guy who did the Hulk.
the guy who did Hulk. I have tried to watch that movie many times, and I always fall asleep and wake up at the very end when we finally get to see the Hulk.
That's what my wife did when she started
Steroid
theaters.
Shrek.
Steroid Shrek. Dun, dun, dun.
Get out of my swamp!
Get. Speaking of Voltron, though,
I will throw a tank at
I'm
your
a little
airplane.
I'm a little excited. Michael Bay is not doing it, so it might actually be good. They're rebooting Power Rangers.
There you go. Give
I
Michael
have
Bay
heard
Power
that
Rangers.
it's a go-go.
Yes, it is. It is a go. But also, speaking of goes, they've already greenlit Terminator. Wow, I'm a little drunk right now. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. They've already greenlit it. It's going to happen.
I don't know why.
On
the subject of Terminator, though, who's excited for Terminator Genesis? Let's get a shout out from the audience as to their excitement for Terminator Genesis.
Clearly, they're
Oh,
riveted.
come on, guys! But they got Arnold back for it. It's going to be amazing.
Here's a question for you. Did you see Salvation?
Riddle me this.
Yes,
What did you think?
I saw it.
It was. I will honestly say it was better.
It was better than Rise of the Machines,
Well, it
but
was
let's
better
face
than I was
it,
expecting.
that's a film that set the bar low enough that you could just take a half a step
As
over.
far as I'm concerned, there's Terminator and there's Terminator 2. End of story.
I actually showed my wife Terminator 2 for the
I
first
actually,
time.
on that subject though, Terminator 2, there was Sarah Connor Chronicles. Granted, you throw Summer Glau into something, I am going to enjoy it.
Well, you know what the funny
But when you cancel it after 2 seasons on that cliffhanger, god damn you, Fox.
Fox.
I was going to say, Fox has got to be involved here
What does
somewhere.
the Fox say?
Canceled.
Most of the time.
I am excited though. The girl who played Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones is playing Sarah Connor, and she does an amazing job. Just from what I've seen in the pictures, she looks like Sarah Connor.
Well, she
Yes,
couldn't-
I've seen Emilia Clarke naked. I know she does.
I was going to say, she couldn't play the Terminator because everybody's already seen her show up.
But I mean, they do explain why all the supposed to look as old. I'll go. You know what the funny thing is? We'll all go see it.
Oh, I know I will.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that James Cameron contributed to the world that actually was good was the Terminator
Yes.
series.
I
that
showed my wife-
franchise.
I showed my wife Terminator 2 the first time like a month ago, and she actually enjoyed it. I said, I will never make you watch the original because and I love the original, but it's an old movie.
Well, what's funny is the first one of that series that I saw was the second one,
Yes,
and
that's
then
what
I
did.
found out. Now this you have to go way back. This was what 1992.
92
Yeah.
or 94, I'm not sure.
Something
I want to say it was 92. Might have even been earlier than that. Might have been 91, but I want to say it was 92. I did not know there was a first one when I saw the second one.
You know what?
Terminator.
I saw the.
Yeah. I
I-
had no idea.
We saw the second one first, and you know what the funny thing is? I found out later the reason my parents would let me watch the second one and wouldn't let me watch the first one was all because of the sex scene.
They
Well,
were
let's
being
face it,
parents, as
it's-
we discussed
Yes,
earlier.
yeah, exactly.
It's
They
a
were-
sex scene between Michael Bay and Linda Hamilton.
no, not Michael Bay.
No,
not
Biehn.
Michael
Michael
Biehn.
Bean.
I
Michael
was trying
Bay
to
was
say
a
Michael
child
Biehn.
back then. But Michael Bean and
But
Linda
the
Hamilton.
point is, he was not making Ninja Turtles.
No. I have too
Somebody
much.
should have gone back in time to take him out.
Did I say Bay? I thought I said Bane.
I'm pretty sure you said Bay, but I'm not
Which
sure.
it's one of
think you
those
said-
things that he has one of those names. It's either Michael Bean or Michael Bane.
Michael Bean.
It's kind of like Kim Basinger. I mean, come on.
Oh my God, Kim Basinger. There was a thing
I
though
never
once.
looked at her name.
I said, "Who is your favorite model turned actress? Kim Basinger or Cindy Crawford?" I said, "It'll always be Cindy Crawford." But
She can act.
I don't care what she does. She did a movie sex scene with one of the Baldwin brothers.
It was probably Billy.
Yeah, I don't remember which. It was the one from Backdraft, and that
that was
scene.
One from Backdraft.
Oh my God,
Pretty
I
sure that
love
was
Cindy
Billy.
Crawford. You put Cindy Crawford in a Zool outfit, and I will die happy. But I have two more things I do want to discuss before we finish up. It's getting past. We're about an hour and 14 minutes, and I do want to wrap up. But there's a couple more things I do want to
why?
discuss. I know, right?
Has it really been that long?
It
Wow.
has been, but you know what? When we having time flies when you're having fun. We already talked about
Especially when nobody else is.
we already talked about the steamy pile of crap known as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I do want to talk briefly about, if you haven't seen it, it's on the Hunt Collectibles on Facebook. It is the new Stormtrooper helmet from Star Wars Episode 7.
This is the first time I've been excited
That's
about
my
this movie.
favorite motorcycle helmet I've ever seen.
But I'm glad they changed it. It basically, it looks like the Stormtrooper helmet. It has more of a visor around it.
It does look. I've seen the picture, like you said, you posted on the Hunt Collectibles, which absolutely really
Looks awesome.
fun to follow. But yeah, it does look like an amazing helmet, and it does look like the Legacy era Stormtrooper helmet,
Yes.
as depicted in the Star Wars Legacy comic series.
Can I just say, somebody on
Still waiting for my royalty checks on that one.
I know. I'm waiting for a lot of royalty checks.
Yeah,
But
from Hunt's Tomato Ketchup.
Hunt's Tomato Ketchup, from Paige on turning heel on WWE, from The Dark Knight Rises. I'm waiting for a lot of royalty checks because they were all my ideas and somebody else got a hold of them.
You're so mad.
I am mad.
But I just want to
Very
say,
angry person.
somebody on the art site that I use, DeviantArt, plenty of people probably know it, but somebody did.
When it works.
Yeah, when it works.
And when it's
you know.
not porn.
Yeah, when the few images that aren't porn, somebody did a full, well, at least an upper body drawing of the new Stormtrooper, the new helmet, the way the new armor might look, and I gotta say, it was really good. I'll try to post it somewhere.
Probably on FOE 19 Studios.
Yeah,
on
well,
Facebook.
I'm kind of iffy about posting other people's.
Well, it depends. If you do it on
As
the
long
Facebook
as
page,
credit is given where it's due.
Yeah, and it will have the link to their.
plus
page.
if you do it on the Facebook page, that's what it's for. If you do it on your own website,
Yeah, that'd be.
that's. Do you remember your web address, by the way? It's like Steeljaw or something like
It's
that.
like Steeljaw33 at Wix.
/ on the hunt. No, on the hunt.
Yeah.
FOE Studios.
Let me clarify. I created a website specifically to show off my artwork and what I can do, and the web company that I went through, I logged in with Facebook, so it took the email address I was using for my Facebook and made that the start of the address, and then FOE Studios at the end. And you're not supposed to hit yourself in the eye with beer.
No, I got beer in my eye.
Well, same difference.
Yeah, drinking it through the eye usually
Yeah,
does
Oh,
not
that
work.
hurts. Don't do that.
No,
if you're listening,
There
beer,
is one orifice that's acceptable for consumption of alcohol.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
not the eye.
No.
I will leave it to our listener to figure out what orifice it is.
But
go ahead.
It's
Continue.
so it's got kind of a funky web address. It's the link is on the hunt.
It's on the link to it is actually on onthehuntcomics.com, and it's I'm pretty sure I posted on the Hunt Collectible Facebook, and it's on the FOE 19 Studios Facebook. And actually, I don't know if it's FOE 19 or FOE. We keep going back and forth.
It's facebook.com/FOE19.
Yeah, right. One more thing I actually want to discuss before we log off for the evening. Next weekend, and I'm talking about August 23rd, the season premiere of Doctor Who Series 8 with Peter Capaldi as the Doctor in his pajamas, so it seems to be reminiscent of the David Tennant era. Also, there's a dinosaur. There's a dinosaur in this episode. It takes place somewhere in the past. I'm looking forward to it. I think Peter Capaldi is going to surprise everybody. But I also think Ben Affleck's going to surprise everybody as Batman. So I could be wrong. And if I am, you can comment on these and you can rub it in my face all you want.
Now, see, I share your optimism on Peter Capaldi. I do not share your optimism on Batfleck.
Yeah.
But yeah, next Saturday, I was binge watching The Doctor earlier today. I'm probably going to do it all week long going into next Saturday so that I can just pick right up with Jenna, with Peter, and take off with the new Doctor.
I'd like to
and
pick
if
up
you
with
don't like
Jenna.
the fact that the Doctor is older than Matt Smith, the doors to the left, take a hike, enjoy your life being a dweek, but the Whovians will be watching and
Yes.
enjoying his time.
Well,
Because we always seem to cast doubt on the new guy.
Yeah.
well, I feel like it's a
and
process.
It never pays off.
You have the guy, you start to love him. Then he regenerates. You're like, no, I hate the new guy. Then by the time the new guy's done, you're sad to see him go.
Can I just say, I have watched at least a couple episodes of just about every single Doctor going down the line.
Yes.
Now, I would have to say that, and again, it's nothing against this particular Doctor, but I'd have to say Colin Baker wasn't one of my favorite Doctors.
Yeah.
But I watched his episodes, and they're just as good.
Yeah, in the Colin Baker vein of things, it wasn't so much his fault
Oh, I didn't
that
think so.
the Sixth Doctor didn't go over as well, as much as it was the costume designers who said, "Oh no, we don't want to have you dress all in black. We want to put you in this garish, ridiculous outfit." It was the scriptwriters giving him stories that were kind of
Crappy.
below what people had come to expect from Tom Baker, from
And he's not,
from everybody basically up before Colin Baker, and he gets a lot of the blame. Sylvester McCoy gets a lot of the blame because he was the Doctor when the show went off the air.
Look at Paul
But-
McGann. He got a movie, and that was it. And a bunch of audiobooks.
Yeah,
And he also got a short in the 50th anniversary.
Yes, which he did an amazing job in.
yeah, and we may get more of those, and the fans, are really hoping for more of those.
I would love
Maybe
to see
some
more
more of
Paul
those
McGann.
with, if some sort of deal can be worked out with Chris Eccleston to get him back to do a couple of shorts. I mean, that
See,
would be an amazing thing. I don't honestly think that would happen, but it would be amazing if
But you
it
know
did.
what's funny is Christopher Eccleston gets a lot of crap, and my favorite is David Tennant. I'll always say that. But I liked Christopher Eccleston,
Yeah.
and it's like I like Christopher Eccleston in general, especially even when he plays a villain. Like he played Deathstroke in G.I. Joe. He played in Gone in 60 Seconds. He plays a lot of odd roles, but he always does an amazing job.
Yeah, he brings a life to that character and a personality to that character that it's like, I know I'm supposed to hate you, and yet I
But you're Christopher
can't.
Eccleston.
But if you like the little side episodes there, like what they did with Paul McGann for the
Yeah.
50th anniversary, if you haven't already looked it up, go look up Time Crossed, David Tennant and Peter Davison.
Yeah, that was actually an extra. It was. I don't remember. It was.
for charity.
It was one of the charity ones that they had done. And
It was
it's really
between-
interesting to see the two of them acting together because it's father and son-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah, he married his daughter, who played the Doctor's daughter.
And
If
everybody
you-
just went cross-eyed.
And if you really think about it, it's kind of weird with the Doctor marrying the Doctor's daughter, but honestly, you just kind of move past it.
She's really cute.
She is. She's a nice looking girl.
Yeah, she's gorgeous. She's sweet, and her son is actually David Tennant is his favorite. Which she actually there was a thing. It was like a candid video thing that she had done, and she asked him who his favorite Doctor was, and he was like, "Oh, I like the 10th Doctor." And she's like, "Oh, your granddad will be happy to hear that."
Oh, but I think we need to wrap this up though. Now I'm going to say this now. I try to do this podcast the third weekend every month. There's not going to be a set date. That's what I try to do it. But I also want to just say, like I said, go to On the Hunt Collectibles on Facebook and or onthehuntcomics.com. You can check out FOE Studios' new website with all of Dan's hard work on it. It's really cool.
Just want to go back and emphasize that's On the Hunt Comics.
onthehuntcomics.com. Also, if you go on Facebook, look up Shiny Doctor Cosplay. That's Brian Here's cosplay page. It's amazing. Go and check it out.
Great.
Follow
photos from the
him.
cons.
He has great pictures. He has his picture taken with Nicole Jean and
Nicole Jean, Destiny Nicholson. This past week. At
Boston Comic-Con.
I got a picture with Eve Miles, who unfortunately was the only celebrity I got to meet who was doing pictures at the table.
Yeah.
The page is still a work in progress. There's also a Twitter page and a Tumblr page. They're a lot more work in progress than the Facebook page is. So
Well, if it makes you feel a bit on the hunt has a Twitter page too that I barely use.
And my website and the website that I am working on. If you do go to it, if you find the link and go to it, it is under construction. So
But you have
bear
ways of
with me.
you have ways of following all of us now. So like I said, you have On the Hunt Collectibles, no, Facebook.com/On the Hunt Collectibles or OnTheHuntComics.com. You have FW19 Studios,
Yep.
And you have Shiny Doctor Cosplay. So you can follow all three of us, and listen up. This podcast is always posted on YouTube. Maestro65 is the username.
We could post the links to each web page in the show notes of the.
Yes, we do. I'll try to post them in the comment section of this video. But yeah, go check them out and follow us. Especially everybody has a Facebook now. If you don't have a Facebook, get up with the times.
Come
Okay?
on, I
Welcome
have a
to the
Facebook.
21st.
Get with
You
the
know what I
program.
mean?
No flying cars, no hoverboards, but
We got Facebook.
Let go of your gods and join the internet.
oh snap!
Oh snap! I probably just lost some viewers for that. I have respect for any religion that you follow. I just don't follow any of them. But anyway, like I said, on thehuntcomics.com, on the Hunt Collectibles on Facebook, FO19 Studios on Facebook, or Shiny Doctor Cosplay on Facebook. Follow us all, and we're going to leave you with some mood music just to make you feel better. And here it is.